Good afternoon. This is Professor Inglet, and today I want to talk about different types of evidence within a writing assignment. Let me share my screen. All right. There are different types of evidence that you can use to refine your argument. If you have a claim, then you can have statistical evidence as one kind of evidence to promote higher level critical thinking. Statistical evidence is a collection of observations that have been organized, validated, and gathered in a way that allows them to be expressed in mathematical form. Statistical evidence includes surveys, polls, census data, experimental results, economic data, and crime statistics. Here are three examples of a statistic that you could use as evidence in your paper. A study of a random sample of 1,000 people found that 70% of them prefer to watch movies at home rather than go to the cinema. So that this claim would be focused on people prefer to stay at home. 70% of people tend to watch movies at home rather than go to the cinema. Next, an analysis of crime data from a city over the past 10 years shows a decrease in the overall crime rate by 25%. If you're trying to argue for a lower crime rate, then this statistic will work in your favor. Finally, a survey of 500 employees in a company found that 80% of them are satisfied with their working conditions. So those are statistical evidence. I think you should always use statistical evidence within your paper. The next kind of evidence is called testimonial evidence. A definition of testimonial evidence is the following. When someone gives a statement of something they have experienced or witnessed, it can provide firsthand information about an event or situation. That's testimonial evidence. For testimonial evidence to be strong, the person must be a credible witness. They must have some kind of credibility. They must be a scientist, a researcher, a professor, a police officer. It depends on your topic, but it could be a mayor, it could be a president of the United States. But they should be a credible witness. So don't just use anybody to support your ideas. Use a credible witness for testimonial evidence. Example of testimonial evidence includes a person uses the software Microsoft Word and comments on its strengths and weaknesses. For the person to be credible, they should be a computer scientist. A computer scientist is going to have different views of strengths and weaknesses of Microsoft Word than perhaps somebody on the streets. The next kind of evidence is called case studies. And this is an in-depth study of one person, group, or event. In a case study, nearly every aspect of the subject's life and history is analyzed to seek patterns and causes of behavior. So you're looking for information that seeks patterns and causes of behavior where you're able to analyze the information in more detail. Here's an example of a case study. Technology usage in the elementary classroom, a case study of teacher professional development and intentions for learning. And let me click on the website. This is written by Amanda Aldred. And this is a thesis at an institution, and it's a case study. You'll notice in the case study, the table of contents will be full, will be extensive. Rationale and significance, purpose and research questions, definition of key terminology, all part of the case study. Chapter 2 is a literature review. That's all the sources that the writer uses in the paper. Chapter 3 is actually the research design of the case study. And within that piece, you're going to have data analysis and criteria of qualitative research. And finally, you're going to have the findings and analysis, which is what you may end up using for your paper. Major findings, benefits of technology integration, technology barriers, technology development needs. And chapter 5 concludes the thesis. So that's a case study. You can find a lot of research from a case study and use that in your paper. The next kind of evidence is called anecdotal evidence. This is evidence that you've written in a Comp 1 paper where you've written a personal experience essay. Anecdotal evidence is use of personal experience to make a point or claim about an issue. So an example is if a paper focuses on how COVID has impacted society, a patient in a hospital can write about her experiences with COVID in a hospital setting and how that worked out. So that's a personal experience point of view. Another example, let's say that an author is writing about the issue of gun control in the Second Amendment. The author can write about his or her experience of purchasing a firearm at a gun show. They can also explore the safety or precautions they provide to protect the weapon from a teenager's use. They could also talk about the shooting range and how the safety of the shooting range plays into effect. So that's anecdotal evidence. Next, we have scientific observation or experimental evidence. To use science, a person records data based on observations made by the 5 senses. Science tends to have a hypothesis or a main idea and conclusions based on observations. So this is observational evidence or scientific evidence. Example of observational evidence: a farmer's fields produced an effective crop in certain areas of the field, not all the areas of the field. The farmer noticed that crop yields might relate to the amount of earthworms in a certain section. The farmer added earthworms in all sections of the field. After doing this activity, the entire farm yielded a better crop. Evidently, there's a correlation between earthworms and farm production. That's all scientific evidence based on observation of earthworms in a field. Another kind of evidence is hypothetical evidence. This is the use of imagined scenarios or examples to illustrate a point or support an argument. And here's an example of hypothetical evidence. It's kind of a what if question or a scenario. I view abortion as wrong because the effects it has on women. Consider, for instance, what might happen to a young mother after going through an abortion. After the loss of a child, many mothers experience a combination of guilt and remorse. After an abortion, a mother may experience the same set of feelings, which could lead to depression or chronic anxiety. So that's an imagined situation, for example, or a for instance, what might happen if the young mother. So that's the hypothetical evidence. Next is analogical evidence. That's where you compare 2 things or ideas to draw a reasonable conclusion. You use an analogy, a symbol, a metaphor. You use a metaphor to talk about certain situations. Here's an example. One notable success story involved using an analogy between navigating through life's challenges and sailing a ship through rough waters. This comparison not only made the concept more relatable, but also left a lasting impact on my readers, illustrating the power of analogical evidence in evoking emotions and understanding. So that's an example of an analogy. Next, we have historical evidence, and this is evidence from an historical perspective. For example, the Declaration of Independence clearly states that individuals in the United States and elsewhere should have some freedom or rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Evidence from an historical document. Another historical document, the First Amendment guarantees the freedom and right of religion in the United States. So that's a fact based on the historical document of the Constitution of the United States of America. That is my example of different types of evidence. I hope you learned something today, and that's all I have. Thank you.